Hey everybody, it's finally the weekend, and I'm pretty sure I'm sharing the same amount of joy with the rest of you out there who work so hard throughout the weekdays of the week. And we just look forward to that very short respite. It's never enough, which we call the weekend. Well, guess what? It's finally here, and I just want to share with you this pilot episode of what I call vitamin V, as in V for vlog, because I intend for this mini vlogs to be boosters. That's why it's V boosters, to be able to share with you guys and to have basically a channel where I could probably help induce and inject some sense of positivity and hype in that good vibe. You know, the world as it is very much plagued right now by so much negativity, man-made or otherwise. So it really wouldn't hurt if we somehow share some spark of joy, or again positivity, however way we can. And this is my means of doing that or achieving that. A lot of you might be asking why I'm doing what I'm doing. I brand it as my new crazy, only because I find it very not only entertaining for myself, but I find it very fulfilling that I finally found a platform where I could share my thoughts, my views, or just anything basically under the sun that works or that I have personal appreciation for. Because who knows, you might end up appreciating them too. And to me, that's a very basic good cause. There's no harm in it. But if I do offend anybody at some point in time with anything that I share in my vlogs, just feel free to reach out to me. So let's get on to the topic for this first episode of my V Booster. She landed the vlog, or Shy, requested that I come up with just some sort of a video that would allow me to express or share what I think of a girl boss, right? She even went down to the very specifics of how do we brand, or how do we picture a well-grounded girl boss, right? So a bit of disclaimer here, guys. My views are mine alone. They don't represent any of the companies that I worked with in the past, or even still work with in the present time. They are my personal opinions. So I would like to separate what I do in my vlogs from the professional work that I do, because this is really something personal for me. Okay, so I have a few combination of just words or values that I believe strongly constitute a well-grounded girl boss. Let's start with the first one. It's grit. Such a big word for a female, I would say, or a female leader at that. But this is very critical for me because, especially given, over the years, I have learned to thrive in a lot of male-dominated work environment, only because I'm usually into IT, or I've been associated with technical companies. So grit allows me to have a very firm mind as well as spirit. Women have been stereotyped to be fickle-minded. So it becomes a very great deal of challenge to identify yourself with a strong decision or a solid decision. But grit has allowed me over the years to establish credibility, because somehow if you execute this so well, people will know that you mean what you say and you say what you mean. But that doesn't become an excuse to slight or hurt other people. It should never be used that way. But grit for me makes a female leader stand out among the rest, and makes it very much eminent to show to the rest of the other leaders in any organization that you deserve a seat in that table. Grit, okay? The next one is a value or a virtue, I would say, which I hold very close to my heart because it also is my favorite value. It's called integrity. I have known to not work well with people with the lack of it. Oftentimes it leads to exposure, oftentimes it leads to escalation. I very much appreciate the value integrity because it allows you not only to share to the rest of the world who you really are, it gives you that identity that's uniquely yours. When you're dealing with business, it's important that people will have high regard of you, will respect you, and integrity drives a lot of that. Whatever we do, even if no one is watching, you have to be honest, right? And that's why I hold this dearly to my heart, because number one, I don't think it's very much easy to achieve. But over the years, once you really embrace integrity, it works like your own personal branding. Special shout out to Therese because she is my Mars from one of the companies I worked with in the past, and she asked me to do a talk on personal branding, and integrity actually was really part of that entire talk, right? So I hope you do find integrity deserving a very good place in your value system, because as a leader, it establishes a whole lot of credibility. Responsibility is the other must-have if you want to be a well-grounded girl boss. No, with position or with certain roles in the organization, responsibility or the amount of it increases as you move up the corporate ladder. But what sometimes people forget is that responsibility has a twin, and it's called accountability. There are also leaders, and I've met them in my past experiences, who really didn't have a clear distinction between responsibility and accountability. I will never forget, I have to give credit to Professor Villanueva in UP Dalaman when I took my BA 101 class back in college, because I seem to have not forgotten that very line where she clearly and distinctly separated responsibility from accountability, and I want to share the same with you guys. You can always delegate responsibility, but you cannot delegate accountability. So if you are a female leader and you have people working or reporting to you, it's already typical that there are days or there are tasks that you just have to entrust to your people because it's part of their career development as well. And when you entrust certain tasks to them, they'd be responsible for it, right? Or sometimes when we get sick, or when I call in sick, I ask, let's say, one of the seniors from my team to have to be responsible for this piece of a deliverable. When that screws up, or when your staff is not able to produce that deliverable within the timeline that you were given, or when something just goes downward spiral and gets screwed up, you can't put the blame on that person. This is one of the most frustrating things that I see day in and day out with some leaders, and I'm not pertaining to the current company that I work for. I've seen it even in Netflix series or TV series or movies, that point or turo mentality that will never hold under good leadership, whether you're male or female. Once you delegate that responsibility, you have to be accountable for it. So if something screws up, or if everything just gets screwed up, you have to be out there raising your hand and saying, this one's on me because I'm fully accountable for this. Accountability would also mean you're accountable for your own people, their welfare. So you'd always have to put that first. And one of the challenges as a leader would require you to put your people first before yourself. Not everybody does that, but that's a kind of flavor that I like injecting into my own flavor of leadership, female leadership at that, right? So hopefully that statement would also resound well with you. You can always delegate responsibility, but you cannot delegate accountability. The other one is a lesson that I got from one of my favorite books, and it's been written by Sheryl Sandberg. She's the current COO of Facebook. I follow her in Instagram, Facebook, TED Talks because I was just really amazed by this piece of book that she has written or she has authored. It's called Lean In. Basically, I have the book, but I can't show it to you because honestly, I think I lent it to one of my direct reports or one of the girls from our office, and I don't remember who. But I will never forget that book because it has made such a big difference in how I lead in the workplace. It's about women, work, and Snap Reads summarizes the lessons from the book, I think, better than any other material in the internet does. So, leaning in or lean in allows the female leader to remember 5 basic lessons on how you would be an effective female leader at work. One is sit at the table. If you have something to say, if you have a very strong view about something, you don't coop up in a corner and expect for that change to happen, right? You go raise your hand, you go speak up until you get a seat at that table. When I say seat at that table, I'm pertaining to the leaders of the company who make the most executive decisions for any tower of the company as well. Sometimes holistically, you sit at the board, right? It takes years, of course, to do that, except if you've really well established yourself in the industry. But that's number one for lean in. One of the most humbling lessons I got from that book was the fact that not everybody will like you. Dot dot dot, because that has a very, very strong but. Not everybody will like you, but that's okay. I used to be a people pleaser. Back in the day, I came from operations, the airline industry. So it was almost innate in me, like second skin, to please everybody because it's a service industry. But when I hopped onto the corporate world, that was very hard to achieve. You know, I was going against a lot of big wigs in the company, I would say, because I was like, if when I was in a role where the objective was to lower down the costs of the company, I was really going against a lot of directors and VPs who were not really into change management. So that became pretty much difficult for me. But at the end of the day, I think I came to the resolve that not everybody will like me, but as long as I'm just doing the job and I'm not purposely offending anybody, or I'm not stepping on somebody else's toes, then that's okay. It gives you that certain amount of contentment as well as peace of mind, knowing that not everybody will like you. And you only have to keep a couple or a handful of people that you trust and value, or you will continue to value in your lifetime, and that's enough. I don't know if it comes with old age. I would rather say it comes with wisdom for you to fully embrace that reality. Not everybody will like me, but it's okay. Empowering other women. I have seen some posts, vlogs, or even web pages of women getting into a lot of things. Some are into crocheting, some are into cooking, some are into doing life coaching. And really, I would want to ask people to hold judgment, right? We don't really understand why people get into something. Like, I'm pretty sure, absolutely clear, you have no idea why I'm doing what I'm doing right now. Or you're probably asking why I'm doing it. But at the end of the day, if you feel like you are contributing a lot through a channel like this and you're able to help other people, isn't that enough? Or if you're simply doing something that makes you happy, isn't that also reason enough to continue on? So in the workplace, especially if you have a setting where, again, women come as a minority, it's very crucial for women to support other women. No, I am not feminist, and no, I may not fully agree with all of the other, Me Too movement that's really pushed the boundaries of respect for women. I do partially agree with a lot of the causes that they fight for, but this is simply just recognizing the potentials of other women. But I want to tweak that a bit and say recognizing full potential and empowering other people regardless of gender. It just so happens that I think women in the professional workspace still come as a minority. That's why the emphasis is for women. But come on, guys, supporting other people, that brings a lot of good vibes just boomeranging on you too. So I really urge all of us to support and empower other people out there, not just our direct reports, not just women, but again, everybody from all genders. Fourth one, from Lean In, get the right partner. If you have witnessed my vows, we got married last September, Alvin and I. In my vow, I did say that for such a long time, I really thought that I was just going to be a plain career woman, that was perfectly okay not to settle down, because I think I have reached a point at age 40 when I fully accepted the possibility that I will not settle down. And then God is just, I guess, full of surprises, and I met Alvin. This is very important for female leaders who remain to be grounded, because it will always matter to be supported. Not only by your family, not only by your friends, but most especially your partner. I have had the most difficult nights in the corporate world. When I say difficult nights, I'm not just pertaining to evenings. There used to be days where I would work and toil for continuous 16 hours a day. And that's not a singled out day. Sometimes that would run for weeks, sometimes months, and sometimes even to a full year. If your partner doesn't support you and if your partner doesn't understand that, then it would trigger a lot of fights, a lot of misunderstanding, and it would add up to what would consume you and what we normally call a stress. It's important to find the right partner who would, face the world and all of the challenges as a female leader and be arm in arm with you in combating all of those challenges. And I'm just really blessed that I have Alvin. I mean, we're not, in a very reasonable position to be compared to other couples who have been together for 20 plus, 30 plus years. But my relationship with my husband right now is exactly the kind of relationship that I want to grow old with. It's easy, it's supporting, it's engaging. Even this new crazy that I'm doing, he supports that. He was actually the one who bought me my gimbal. He's actually doing a lot of researching about YouTube as well. So it keeps you grounded, because no matter how tough the day went for you, or no matter how exciting the day was for you, it keeps you grounded to go home to a husband who would remind you of who you really are in the core. And I hope you find somebody who would fulfill that purpose for you. Last but not the least, I have a cheat sheet here behind me for leaning in. Speak up against prejudice and stereotype. We should never ever condone prejudice and stereotyping in the workplace, in our personal lives. This is something that we need to be very vocal about. Not to mean, again, to drive a very feministic movement, but just really to speak up and have to say, this is not okay, this cannot continue, or just merely a no when you're not okay with it, right? So those are the fine lessons that I've learned out of Lean In. And again, I give credit to Snap Reads, because to me, Snap Reads, they've summarized Lean In, the book by Sheryl Sandberg, so effectively. Even if you watch just the video, you'd be able to pick up lessons from it. Okay, so I have 4 other values or 4 other points for a well-grounded girl boss. Brevity is the next one. This is the shortness of duration of everything. Most of you would probably be asking right now, why would I want for everything to be shorter? Let me explain. Um, I value brevity because at work you would just get either one of two things: criticism or compliment, right? Because we're measuring performance day in and day out. I like brevity because I've been known in the workplace to use this line: nip it in the bud, nip it in the bud. That's what I would always say. Brevity because, again, it introduces that virtue of humility. That's why I always remind even my direct reports, do not let compliment get to your head. Do not let criticism get to your heart. Those two powerful statements alone would remind you, if you've been complimented today, that's good, but move on. Do not brag, do not be arrogant about it, do not throw your weight in the workplace. Just move on. Be grateful and move on. Flipping that page and you receive a criticism, true or not, that's why I call feedback. No leader would ever survive without feedback, right? So if you get criticism and it somehow hurts you, well, same thing, you just have to move on. Keep everything in short duration. Do not let that criticism or that compliment, again, consume all of you, so much so that it drives you and the next of your decisions and actions just being partial or biased to that compliment or that criticism. It's never gonna be good. So nip it in the bud. Flip the page and then start with a new page again. That's how I keep my sanity as well. Ownership is very important. Whether we win, we lose, especially if we lose, you have to own a decision that you have made. You have to own a direction that you have cascaded to your constituents. You have to own every action or word or statement that you make, because as a leader, those words and actions define who you are and what type of leader you are too. No matter how bad it turns out to be, if you own it, somehow it downplays the damage because you're brave enough to admit that you made a mistake and I'm owning it and this is how I'm fixing it. Don't get stuck in just owning it. The most important part of the whole situation or problem fixing is you owning the problem and you also fixing the problem. You don't want anybody else to fix that for you. Because that's going to translate to lack of good leadership. Art of being sassy. This is how you distinctively project an image that you are both smart and stylish. Mind you, this is very hard to achieve. At least in my earlier years, back when I was still rank and file, I wasn't really managing people. I'd always go for the smart image. I guess it was only brought forward because of my historical years in college, in high school, in my elementary years. And all those years have formed me to be so loyal to just being smart. I had that judging idea before. And I will confess, sometimes you see a very good looking woman or a female just sashaying down the hallway. First thought, first impression of the woman, she's just pretty. No, there's nothing between her two ears. And I know it's not fair. And this is not fair not only to women, we also do it with men. Somebody who's good looking, we say, oh, it's all just that handsome look and nothing else. That's why I try to achieve both. You have to be smart, but at the same time, you have to be presentable. I'm not even saying like fashionista all the way. What I'm trying to encourage here is just look presentable, right? You're gonna attend meetings, you're gonna face guests, you have expats being flown into your country and you're the host. Looking a little bit more presentable, putting out the effort to look very decent and kaaya-aya, how we would say it in our own language, is just something that would be appreciated, right? And it gives me that boost that, hey, I'm not only stylish or I'm not only presentable, mind you, I'm also smart. You know, it gives you that very good feeling about yourself. But of course, you have to be genuinely smart and stylish and not just have to claim that you're both when you're not. But I believe, and this is again one of my um, positions, mental belief in life, that being smart, you can do something about it. You're not, some people are born smart. I mean, no argument there. But if you're mentally challenged, there's always a way to spruce up your level of intelligence or your level of corporate wit, right? Read up, um, go for mentoring sessions, get as much experience as you can extract out of your lifetime, and then put them all into practice. It's not a dead end position, or it's not a dead end place to be if you think you're not smart. um, that's what the schools are for. That's what online education is for. There are so many means how you can address, if you're feeling less smarter than other people, that's okay. Again, it's one thing that I try to avoid, comparing myself with other people. I only compare myself with myself, because no matter what you do, you'd end up getting frustrated anyway, and I don't want that. And I hope that's not misconstrued as arrogance, because it isn't. It's just that you keep a high bar for yourself and then keep extending that vertically. So you just keep improving. You continue to evolve and you continue to improve. Then you become smarter and smarter as you go along. Style, fashion, you know that there are a lot of shows where people do makeovers, right? So it can't be a dead end thing if you're not a very stylish person. If you think you're not presentable enough, you can work on it and you can achieve that smart and stylish combo so easily, right? And last but not the least, since the request was about being a well-grounded leader, it's very important to always remember this word. Other than thank you, of course, it's sorry. We are often thought of as being the weaker gender because saying sorry, I'm sorry, oh, sorry, almost comes as a natural thing to blurt out for us. We hit somebody by the elbow, or we say something really close to cursing, we say sorry right away. In the corporate world, sometimes that's being misunderstood as weak. And I don't particularly agree. But there is value to not apologizing only in areas where you're being yourself, you did not intentionally hurt anybody, then you don't have to be sorry. This is who I am. This is who I want to be known for, and you don't have to be apologetic for it. But if you're coming from, for example, a character that's arrogant or boastful or anything close to anything negative, you can't say, you don't have to be apologetic about it, especially in the workplace, because people look up to you if you have direct reports. You work with other managers and you work with other leaders. You have to learn to admit when you make a mistake and say sorry for it. And then you fix it again. You don't just say sorry, you also fix it. This really keeps me grounded because it reminds me so distinctively that I am far from being a perfect leader. But as long as I know that when I make a mistake, I will own it, I will be accountable for it, and I will say sorry, plus a proposition to fix it, then it should be again okay. It should be fine. I've met a couple of leaders who have projected that image that if they sorry, they become less of a person or less of a leader or less of an executive. And those were the type of leaders who reminded me to tell myself, I don't want to be like him or like her someday. It's important that when we make a mistake, we still apologize for it. But if you're coming from your character down in your very core and it's nothing offensive and negative, then do not apologize for being so. Do not apologize for being successful. Do not apologize for being the only female leader in the group. Do not apologize for getting a seat around the table where there are 10 other men. Do not apologize for being you. Because being you is the very best gift you could give out to the rest of the world. Who you are down again in your very core. So Shai, I hope all those lessons, virtues, values would help you and help others to define the kind of female leader that you want to be. Because there is no way I'm sharing this V-booster so that all of you will follow exactly the same path. I'm sharing this with you because this is how I would want this platform to turn out to be. It's just getting ideas from a perspective different from that of your own so that it would help you somehow define the real solid virtues, values, thoughts, perspective, position that you would want for your own. Okay. Happy weekend again, everybody, and until my next V Booster.